This is a short video to give you some suggestions about how to analyse a rather big and complex data set. Now, this Excel spreadsheet shows data from the States on accidental deaths, I believe, due to drug overdoses. That's my guess anyway. I don't know the details about this. When you look at it, first of all, it's pretty intimidating. There's a lot of information here. If I scroll sideways at the bottom, you can see there's lots and lots of columns, and there are indeed a large number of rows. There are over 2,000 data points here. So it's a pretty big data set and perhaps a little bit intimidating. So the first thing to do is to perhaps make this look a little simpler to look at. So I'm going to start by just highlighting the headings at the top here so that I can see a little bit more easily that they are in fact headings. And then I'm just going to go to the top of some of the columns to widen them so that I can see what's in them a bit more, because the information is a bit squashed and not always easy to see. We can reverse any of this if we want to. So if we want to make the column narrower again, that's not a problem. Now at this point, we're thinking to ourselves, okay, what can I do with this data? Well, to some extent, that depends on the question you want to ask yourself. My first question usually is, what numerical data have I got? What can I do with it? Well, in fact, other than the date, which I presume is date of death, all we have really that's numerical or continuous interval ratio variables is age. And we can't really do much with that. If we had two variables like that, we might be able to do correlation and regression. If we had different groups, then we might be able to, with numerical variables, we might be able to think about a statistical test and things, but we haven't got the sort of data here that we can do with that. We're really looking at descriptive statistics. So what have we got? We've got information about gender, race, age, place of residence, place of death, place of injury, and the cause of death perhaps, and the various drugs involved. So what might we want to know here? Well, it may well be that you've decided you want to know about gender perhaps. You might want to know about the county of death, but you're not really interested in where these individuals lived. So one of the first things we can do is to actually hide some columns. So here, for example, the residence columns, if I click on the right-hand side at the top of the column and click hide, the column disappears. If I want to get it back again, I just go up here and increase it. So top, right click, hide, and I'm going to do that for a couple of them. And in fact, I've got a little prompt there to show you, indeed, that's how you hide the column. So I'm going to hide a couple more of these in that way. Okay, so I think another thing we can do is to freeze the initial pane. Now, the case number is not particularly meaningful to us at this point, but it might have been. And certainly as you scroll horizontally, you lose that. So one of the things we can do here is to actually keep this first column in place while we scroll. And we can do that. Again, I've got a little prompt here somewhere. By going to the View menu, View, Freeze Panes, and there it is. Freeze first column, and that'll freeze our first column now. So if I scroll now, everything else moves, but that first column stays in place. So again, going back to my prompt, we have the pink one there. Keep the first column in place when you scroll. View, freeze panes, freeze first column. Okay, what else can we do? Well, we've got, as we were saying, one column of numerical data, and it might be interesting to find the mean value of the age there. Now, in fact, we have an awful lot of data points here. If I slide down a cursor and see where we are, right at the bottom there. In fact, we go down to 2573. So there are actually 2572 data points here, assuming that there are no gaps, and there are some gaps of information in places. So what can we do? In this square here, we could find out the average age. Now, you may remember that this involves using a formula. And if I go to my little prompt, I have got, hopefully, oops, a little prompt here. First of all, I need to highlight the whole column. It'll prompt me to do this in a moment. So if I put my formula equals, and then I want average, and there it is coming up. And now it wants all the numbers. So I want to start here. And in fact, what I need to do now, to save me the business of scrolling, I can do Control, Shift, and then the up key. And that'll take me to the whole column. So again, if I put that there, it's highlighting the whole column is Control, Shift, up or down. That's the blue little prompt there. So if I take my cursor back down to the bottom, there's my formula inserted. I just press enter, and I have now got myself an average age of 41.67 years. So that's something that you can report from this data set. Okay, what else could we do? Well, we might be interested perhaps in the ratio of males to females. That might be quite interesting in this data set. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to count the number of males. And you may remember that if we were counting numbers, we can now use the count formula. But if we want to count the number or something that's non-numerical, we use COUNTIF. So as with all our formulae, we put an equal sign, and then we start writing the formula we want. I want COUNTIF, there it is, double click, and once again, I have to give a range, and I also need to tell Excel what it is I'm counting. So first of all, the range. So I'm going to start highlighting there, and then I'm going to do Control, Shift, and then up on my keyboard. I highlight the whole lot there. I slide the cursor on the right back down again to get back to my formula. Then I need to put here a comma. I need to tell it what it is I'm counting. So I'd put that in inverted commas, and I'm going to say male. And now I click enter, and it tells me that there are 499 males according to this, if I've done that correctly. I'm wondering if I have actually. That looks a bit low. I'm going to do that again. So I'm just going to undo that. And I'm just going to put equals, count if, and my range, Control, Alt, up. Okay. Ah, that's interesting. It has actually stopped there at the where there's a gap, and that accounts for why the number was low. So I'm going to go back, and I am going to do on this one highlighting Shift. I'm going to have to, this is a bit of a pain, go right to the top here, click there, and then I've got the whole lot, and then I'll have to slide back down again. So that's interesting. COUNTIF stops if you get a little blank. So again, comma, inverted commas, type what it is I want, now press enter. That's more like it. Okay, now underneath I'm going to do the same thing for female. Equals, look for COUNTIF, start typing, There it is, double click. Need to put my range in, so we've learned now that what I need to do is highlight and then shift on this one, scroll all the way up to the top, bit of a pain. There's my range, scroll all the way back down again, bit of a pain. Just click to get down to the bottom, comma, inverted commas, this time I want female, and enter. And again, I think I've got a little prompt on this one for the COUNTIF. So there's your formula there in the mauve. I'll come back to these little formulae at the end. So just writing in, this was male and this was female, and I can see that I've actually got caps locked at the moment. It doesn't matter really. Now at this point I can actually insert a chart if I want to. If I highlight male and female, I can now go to insert, chart, I'll pick a pie chart, 2D pie chart, and there's a pie chart showing me the relative distribution of male and female, and that might be something that I'm interested in knowing. I'll just delete that to get that out of the way for us. Now you could do something similar with some of the other data we've got here. So for example, if I scroll back to the top here, we have the county of death. We might be interested in knowing proportionately where are most of the deaths. And notice the way I'm phrasing this. I'm trying to ask myself a question. What information do I want out of this data, really? So again, what we could do here is to count the number of Wyndhams, Lichfields, Hertfords and what have you, and then do a pie chart from that at the end. So for example, if I wanted to count the number of Wyndhams, let's just say, I go right down to the bottom again. So I think that's this column here. Again, that's going to be a COUNTIF command, so equals COUNTIF. I've got to use COUNTIF because it's that's what we need if it's non-numerical. I'm prompted to put in the range, so once again, it's going to be it could be Control Shift up if I knew there weren't any gaps. I'm not sure here, so I'm just going to put Shift and scroll right to the top. Notice death county, wasn't it, that one? Column 11 there. Back down to the bottom. So that's my range, comma, and let's say Wyndham, enter, and it's told me that there were 75 deaths. So what I could do now is find the number of deaths in different places, and again I could do a pie chart. So I've started to get some descriptive statistics from this really rather complex data set, which hopefully will be useful to me. And just put some of those little formulae back up again. Counting, highlighting the columns, keeping first column in place, hiding columns.